The eyes of the world were directed primarily at Saudi Arabia today. It was there that the first high-level direct meeting between representatives of the United States and the Russian administration in years took place. Washington stressed before the meeting that this was not about negotiations on Ukraine, but about preparing channels of contact and the ground for the start of such talks. There were no handshakes, no joint photographs. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on one side, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on the other. The conversation lasted several hours. It was, as the Americans stressed earlier, a purely work-related meeting. The idea was to lay out a roadmap for a process that is yet to lead to eventual negotiations.
I came away today convinced that they are willing to begin to engage in a serious process to determine how and how quickly and through what mechanism can an end be brought to this war. Whether we can ultimately reach that outcome will obviously depend on every side in this conflict's willingness to agree to certain things.
As U.S. officials stress, Donald Trump is not interested in freezing the war. He's looking to end it completely.
Well, there are some underlying principles. This needs to be a permanent end to the war and not a temporary end as we've seen in the past. We know just the practical reality is that there is going to be some discussion of territory, and there's going to be discussion of security guarantees. Those are just fundamental basics that will undergird and underlie any type of discussion.
There is also a clear message coming from Washington. Negotiations and peace are not the way to go at any cost. If Putin does not make concessions, Washington has its plan B.
Ukraine is a sovereign, independent country, and Russia's illegal war of conquest violates the UN Charter. Russia must immediately end its war against Ukraine, which not only violates international law, but was also a strategic error for Russia. The easy way out is through negotiations, now. If Russia instead chooses the hard way, it will incur greater and escalating costs to its economy and losses on the battlefield.
Significantly, according to the Secretary of State's assurance, at some stage of the negotiations, European representatives will also be at the table.
And so I would say to you that in order to bring an end to any conflict, there has to be concessions made by all sides. We're not going to predetermine what those are. We're certainly not going to negotiate this today or in a press conference for that matter. But, and there are other parties that have sanctions. The European Union is going to have to be at the table at some point because they have sanctions as well that have been imposed.
The U.S. administration is acting today based on its own interests. The message is clear. No more free umbrella of protection over Europe, which for years did nothing to increase its deterrence potential. And, despite the growing threat from Moscow, still did business with Russia, in effect financing Russia's potential, which it fears today.